Welcome to a special edition of The Gaggle, where we bring you inside the newsroom to take a deeper dive on important issues that will help shape the 2018 elections. Today, we'll get you up to speed on the child migrant separation issue. We'll talk with a political expert on how the issue could affect the elections. We'll give you a quick primer about the policy, and then we'll talk to our reporters in a gaggle about it.
On April 6, 2018, Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced a zero-tolerance immigration enforcement policy that directed the government to criminally prosecute all adult migrants entering the country illegally. That policy led to the separation of nearly 3,000 immigrant children from their families, and it led to massive backlash across the country.
Outrage is building. Protesters taking to the streets, horrified that immigration officials are ripping families apart.
Amid the outcry, Republican immigration hardliners said they supported the policy, saying it acted as a deterrent to those who would illegally enter the country. Democrats called it inhumane and immoral.
Imagine being ripped away from your mother or father and not knowing if you're ever going to see them again. Imagine the horror and fear you will see doing that. What must that sound like?
After weeks of criticism, President Donald Trump signed an executive order in mid-June designed to keep families together. Now the Trump administration, under order by a federal judge, is working to reunite the children who were separated from their parents during that time. Republicans and Democrats are using the issue as fodder for the 2018 midterm election. Republicans are trying to position themselves as aligned with Trump's policies, and Dems are painting the policies as inhumane and calling for comprehensive immigration reform. It's unknown if Congress has the political will to tackle the issue once and for all before the 2018 elections, keeping the divisive issue front and center.
I'm Richard Rellis, reporter here at the Arizona Republican AZ Central in our newsroom with Chuck Coughlin, veteran political strategist. So as a political strategist, how do you see this immigration issue playing out over the election cycle?
Well, unfortunately, it continues to be a partisan divide. We've seen bills attempted to be moved in the Congress by Speaker Ryan that it was a Republican-dominated bill on the one side, and then tried to get a more bipartisan bill moved. When the bipartisan bill moved, only Republicans supported it. Democrats didn't move on it. The issue, the dividing line here is, as long as the president is the president, you're going to have to couple immigration reform with border security. And that's offensive to many of the Democrats who are playing, as you alluded to, this very sensitive, unpopular issue of child separations, which seems to have dominated the debate now. And they're playing the humanitarian card without then addressing the security issue at the border. As long as the president's president, both of these issues have to be addressed.
In a deeply red congressional or legislative district, can you win by saying, we need to enact this policy as ugly as it is because we need to secure our country?
If it's the dominant of politics of self-interest over national interest that is stifling this issue. There's no more important issue to Arizona than this issue, as we know. Mexico is our largest trading partner. Our governor has talked about celebrating trade and growing trade, north-south trade, legal trade with Mexico. Until this issue is resolved, until the human element of this issue is resolved, our economy, and Arizona's economy in particular, will not be able to grow at a pace that it should, given our successful historical relationship with Mexico.
Maybe after this cycle it'll get fixed. Chuck Coughlin, thanks for joining us.
We can pray. Thank you.
Welcome to The Gaggle, where we bring you inside the newsroom to talk politics beyond what's in print. We've all heard the sounds and seen the images of the children separated from their parents during the Trump administration's 2-month-long zero-tolerance immigration policy. What do we know about the children who are here in Arizona?
Yeah, so we know that there are children who have been separated from their families that are being held here, housed here. We've been trying to confirm where those kids are, and it's been very difficult. Southwest Key, which is one of the biggest providers in the country of taking care of kids who came alone or who have been separated, said that they are housing these kids at least 8 facilities here. We have only been able to confirm 2, so 1 in Tucson and 1 in Phoenix. We also confirmed a different program called A New Leaf. It's holding kids in Mesa, and we've heard from neighbors that those kids look to be as young as maybe 8 or 5, but beyond that, it's been very hard to figure out where these kids are right now.
Mary Jo, you staked out one of these centers. What did you see?
I saw a gated facility and fenced. You can't just walk in. And while I was sitting there, 2 vans pulled in, and then I saw a bunch of sort of middle-aged, school-aged kids standing in the parking lot with backpacks. But we haven't reported that because here's the point. We don't know who these kids are. These shelters, A New Leaf, Southwest Key, have been housing unaccompanied minors for a matter of years. They under a contract with the federal government. They're now bringing in, as they have capacity, some of these kids who have recently been separated. So we have these different populations, and we don't know how to distinguish them.
Were you allowed to talk to them or approach anyone from the center?
No. No.
Not at all. And what's surprising is these are gated facilities that there's no indication of what that is. So we talked with neighbors who live next to these facilities, some of them right next door, and they said they had no clue that there were kids there. It's very quiet. They thought maybe one man said he thought it was an orphanage. Someone said they thought it was an elderly home. So it's very low key.
Interesting. Laura, you spent some time speaking with immigrants down in Nogales, Sonora. Can you tell us a little bit about the stories that you heard there and how this policy, before it was reversed, was weighing on their minds?
Yeah, so right now and since May, there's been waves of immigrants coming to the ports of entry to seek asylum. In Nogales, they camp out next to the pedestrian crossing. I got there, right when the day after the tape had been released of that kid that we heard
crying for her mom.
Right, in a detention center. So definitely a lot of the people there, they have kids, they have young kids, they have older kids in their teen years. And they were, they were worried about that happening. But a lot of the people who are coming to, they're escaping violence and poverty and things that are also something that they don't want to put their families through. So some of the people that I talked to, they weren't really sure what was worse, if being separated from their kids for what could be a temporary amount of time, what could be longer, was worse than living in a place where you can't go outside and work and prepare and buy food for your family because it's way too violent.
And there are quite a few people who support Trump's policy and, had no qualms with it continuing. There are other people who want to help in some way. How can they help?
It appears from talking to some of the advocates for these children, probably the best thing is to support legal support for these kids. They do not get public defenders, unlike other people in the court system. The facilities we talked to here basically said, they would accept, some good wishes. A New Leaf did say, would it be helpful to get some assistance to help buy clothes for these kids? But otherwise, it's probably advocacy. Let your elected officials know how you feel about the policy. I mean, the policy has been changing a little bit. Let them know if you support that or oppose it. And there are groups that you can donate to if you want to help out with the legal representation for the children.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. We'll continue to follow your work, and you can follow it at azcentral.com, on our Facebook page, and on Twitter.